Yeah, 20 something. It's May the 8th. I'd have to calculate it. When did we start again?
Right
About a
after
month ago.
Arizona.
Yeah, about a month ago. Yeah. So I'd say 20 something.
Mhm.
Right. All right. I am going to start letting them in. And Sherry, if you'll take it after that.
Okay.
All right, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, May the 8th. As we continue our daily 90-day run to the global event called Rise. My name is Keith Chasson, Double Diamond with Numi. I won't be your main speaker today. We have the pleasure of once again having Dr. Jerry Shaw come in and explain a lot of the science as it deals with the physiology to an extent. And such a knowledgeable individual. Dr. Jerry has got quite an extensive background in chiropractic work, applied kinesiology, Ayurvedic medicine, just a very well-rounded practitioner who retired as a result of the opportunity called network marketing. And when Jamie and I seen this, the first seen Numi or even learned about Numi, we were just a Saturday before Easter in 2022, just minding our own business, sitting in our recliners, enjoying a cup of coffee. And a friend of ours sends us a video. Can your skincare do this? Jamie's watching it, getting all pumped up. See, her passion was this, the skincare. And when she saw this one-step deal that all you got to do is spritz and spray twice a day and go on your way, I'm not like a poet. She got pretty excited. And what I heard was a second recording that said nanosublingual glutathione. I got really, really excited because I had prayed for a way of getting supplemental glutathione into the cell, but by bypassing the gut, because I knew it was really a waste of money and time to take anything orally. So I got really excited and we ordered immediately. And I had some really great results with a shoulder injury that I'd sustained about a year before us learning about Numi. So there's all kinds of ways that the technology will benefit the body, not only the Nutris or the spray that I sprayed, but the NutraSwiss Hydrostat Nano Glutathione, and also recently released our Hydrostat technology as applied to botanicals in the female hormonal balancing product called hers. Just an amazing product lineup. When you take that and you compare it or add it to our 18 members Science and Medical Advisory Board, who are all here for free, it's the perfect storm for not only wellness on a global scale, but also an opportunity if you're someone looking for that. So without further ado, I'd like to bring our guest speaker on today, my friend, Dr. Jerry Shaw. Dr. Jerry?
Thank you, Keith. And I'll talk a little bit about 90 days as well. 90 days was kind of the magic number that when I started in my career in network marketing, I had a friend that had a full-time, he'd walk away living the dream kind of lifestyle. And he did it with network marketing. And I said, well, how did you do that? And he said, there's a few formulas, but one of the most important is 90-day focus. You run hard like there's no tomorrow the first 90 days. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, 90 days, that's not very long. What's going to happen in 90 days? And so when I asked him that, he said, well, you're not going to be where I am in 90 days, but you will have set in motion something that you became the example of. And that's what makes all of the difference. You do something and actually do it. We talk a lot about this. Keith knows stories about Alexander the Great burning ships, and but another thing that Alexander did besides burning ships once they landed on a shore, so there was no retreat, is he led from the front. So that's, I think, really critical to inspire people. People will do what you do, not what you tell them to do. And that's the great thing. So you run really hard for 90 days. And we did that 2 years ago with these calls at this time of day. And we got people in front of Stephen Scott, and he explained glutathione. Nobody had to explain it. So it was a big event. And nobody does it better than Stephen K. Scott. He is I think the world's best at understanding how glutathione works and how being able to communicate it. And I talk a lot about the conversations around glutathione didn't really start happening until Neumi'S. And the reason for that is we've known about it. We've known about glutathione for many, many years. In fact, I first heard about it in the 70s when I was in school. And obviously they had known about it before that. So we've known about glutathione for, I'd say, at least 100 years. We've known that it is a very powerful antioxidant. We've known it is one of the most important, and certainly the most plentiful molecule in the human body. We know it is necessary for life. We know it supports function of every cell, but especially concentrated in the liver, in the gut, in the immune system, in the brain, in the nervous system. All of these systems that we found clinically were becoming challenged and leading to disease. That's why back in 1985, pouring through the published studies of the day around liver function, glutathione kept coming up. Glutathione levels in relation to liver function. Glutathione levels low, liver function's low. If glutathione levels rise, liver function goes up. Wow, that's all we need to do. We need to take this little molecule. How hard can it be? And we need to upregulate it. It's 3 peptides. It's glycine, glutamic acid, also known as glutamate, and L-cysteine. How hard can it be to get that in the body and get more of this amazing thing that supports all cells and is really responsible for much of life? And we found it impossible, nearly impossible. You couldn't, we were trying to rely on food sources because, you want those peptides. You want foods high in those 3 peptides, thinking the body in its infinite intelligence will take those raw ingredients and make glutathione. But we were dealing with people that had low levels of glutathione, and many disease states do. In fact, in these modern times, it was found that people that actually died from the recent health crisis had actually suffered from low levels of glutathione. People that had higher levels of glutathione survived because glutathione supports the immune system, but also every cell of the body. So the body just flat out functions better when you have high levels of glutathione. But we couldn't elevate it, not consistently, not effectively, not measurably, by changing people's diets. Exercise was found to be important. So, the whole health protocol, get out in the sunshine. There's vitamin D relationships to glutathione. Eat onions and garlic and cruciferous vegetables, the cabbages and the broccolis and things like that. All of these things, and we weren't seeing a measurable rise in glutathione levels, not clinically. So we gave up. We really gave up. The conversations went away, really. There were some doctors that started using IVs, and that was the gold standard, because if you want to get something in your body, that's one way to do it. You put it directly in. The reason we couldn't upregulate it is it doesn't survive the very caustic environment of the stomach, basically, of the whole digestive system. Denatures the glutathione molecule. It even denatures L-cysteine. It breaks it up. So it's really hard to get those ingredients into the body. And wow, you just think, well, let's pump it in. Let's put an IV in. But in functional medicine, I could not go there. I couldn't accept that you had to flood the body with this molecule that the body had the capacity of making. And really trying to get it into the cell, they pump the body with a lot of it. 1,400 to 4,000 milligrams is a typical dose on an IV. It goes up to 10,000 milligrams, so 10 grams. On some of the people they were experimenting with Parkinson's, 10-gram doses like every 3 days. And that's a lot. And so you're trying to force a situation to happen. Anytime in chemistry, if you want to push something, a reaction, you force one side of it. But the body doesn't work that way. The body doesn't like things forced upon it. The body's always attempting to create balance. And that's one of the things it uses glutathione for, is to help the body to create the balance. Balance is wellness. Balance is homeostasis. Balance is all of those things you get in your medical tests that tell you you're within normal limits. The body's really good at doing that. 24/7, every second of the day, the body is working on that, and it uses glutathione to do that. So if you flood the body with this, is it wise? What's the long-term effect? And what we were seeing, and what I actually observed and talking with other doctors, first of all, the effect wasn't that long. So you'd have to IV about every 3 days because of the half-life to get any benefit at all. And the other thing was, you end up flooding the body with so much. Now you're stressing the body out because it breaks down in the blood. Again, glycine, glutamate, and L-cysteine. Now the body's got to get rid of those excess. It's not going to be able to use it all. Now it gets rid of the excess. Each one of those has pathways that can become problematic and often do. So there were side effects. So it wasn't like a all or nothing. Oh, this great thing came along, this IV glutathione. No. So we didn't have the conversations around glutathione. Even with IV, it was kind of relegated to emergency rooms, acetaminophen overdose, things like that. And some anti-aging doctors were using it, but it wasn't used in mainstream medicine at all, even in functional medicine, really anywhere to any great degree. It's picked up a bit these days. I think because the studies, there's now 184,000 peer-reviewed published studies. It is the most studied molecule in microbiology because it is that important. It is that effective. All of these mechanisms, you can go to pubmed.org and search almost anything. Glutathione / liver, glutathione / whatever XYZ condition you want to put in there, and you'll find studies on it. It's been widely studied because scientists, researchers, doctors know its value. The conundrum was getting it into the body, actually into the cells. Even on IV, wasn't that effective at getting into the cells and being functionally, clinically effective. So when I heard that Stephen Scott had a breakthrough in glutathione delivery, you got to listen to it. You got to listen to it because of who Stephen Scott is. And I'd started hearing about him in 2006, and he was quite an impressive individual. Actually interviewed by Larry King in 2004 as the breakthrough millionaire. He seems to specialize in these breakthroughs that benefit humanity. So why wouldn't you want to meet this man or learn more about him? And so that was my thought back then. But then when I heard about his latest breakthrough being a glutathione delivery, had to know about it. So we set up a meeting. I saw his before and after pictures, blew me away. And there's many of those pictures that he can't show consistently. He has to kind of keep them hidden because they're too much. They would create too much attention. They're like too medical, and it would become it would be a firestorm of people coming in with all kinds of diseases because that's what he showed the before and afters of. So mostly we stick with the before and afters of the skin. And that came about kind of in a random sort of way because he in the beginning thought, we have glutathione and it supports cell function. Wouldn't you think it would support athletes and it would improve their performance? And that's a great place to test it because athletes have a good baseline. Trained athletes know right where they're at. They know how much weight they can lift. They know how fast they can run down to the millisecond. A swimmer knows exactly, all of these statistics. A trained athlete knows, so you can measure it. So he started working with athletes, and what he found was amazing, absolutely astounding. A good example is Bill Gillespie, the weightlifter, and most of these athletes had passed their prime. Back when they were younger, when they were able to break records and things like that, they had gone past that. Bill Gillespie was an example of that. He had got up to 804 pounds with bench press. That's impressive. That's pretty amazing. That's a rare league, the kind of people to get over 800 pounds in the bench press. There's just a few of those in the world. Well, that was when he was age 49. By age 59, it had dropped down to about 700 pounds. And he was discouraged, just like anyone. As you get older, you can't function at as high of a level. An athlete can't function in that elite class. It's very hard to accept that aging and the realities of it. So Stephen said, try this, try the swish. And he did. and he started swishing glutathione. Now this delivery system is nano, so it's able to swish in the mouth and absorb in the mucosa of the mouth and under the tongue into the blood. But the critical issue was getting a nano small enough, down below 10 nanometers, less than anyone else had ever been able to do it before. And there was another critical thing, because glutathione loves to clump together. These molecules clump together, so it makes it really hard to get it into the receptor of the cell. Even if you were able to get it smaller, they would clump together and not get in the receptor. So they came up with hydrostat technology, where they actually took the oxygen and hydrogen of water, oxygen at the top, the two hydrogen bonds coming down, and bend the hydrogen to create an envelope that captures the glutathione. Absolutely brilliant. So what that does is carries it to the cell, and the cell wants the water and takes it right in. That's the mechanism, that's the breakthrough in total, and that's why this works. Well, Bill Gillespie started swishing it, started going into his blood, and within 70 to 90 seconds into his cells, into his muscles. He found out he could work out longer, he could lift heavier more often, and because he recovered more rapidly. So his ability to lift started going back up. Within a few months, he was into the 900s of pounds, past his best of his prime days by 100 pounds. But it didn't stop there. It kept getting better and better. He finally decided to retire at age 62. At age 62, which was now, 3 years later, and he bench pressed 1,129 pounds, broke a world record that still stands today. So that's what he started seeing. And the skincare came about. In fact, we have Sherry Warner on here, and she's the subject of this conversation. And she actually, being a cyclist and, very prolific at it. And she actually ended up, she was doing really well because the swish was helping her. But she actually, I don't know, Sherry could maybe tell us the story if she wants to step up, but something caused her to go head over heels on her bicycle, land on the road on the asphalt at 22 miles an hour, skinned up her face really pretty bad. Woke up in the hospital the next day, and the doctors were saying it's going to take 5 to 6 weeks for the healing to heal enough that we could assess it. Possible plastic surgery, these kinds of procedures may be necessary, but 5 to 6 weeks of healing before we could even examine and assess it. Well, Sherry's laying there in bed with her swish next to her, of course, because she's loving it. She takes some cotton ball and dabs it and puts it on her face several times a day, thinking, well, this nanotechnology, obviously it's supporting my cells. I'm functioning at a higher level because of it. Maybe it'll help the skin. It was her own experiment. Well, in 5 days, her face was healed. So they surmised quite correctly that they had possibly the best skincare in the world had ever seen. And they took that and perfected it and built some other skincare ingredients into it. And so now we have the swish, which I call the inside out. You swish and you get the upregulation into the cell of glutathione on a consistent daily basis without having to go to the trouble of IV and all of that, without having to have the potential side effects. You effectively actually can get a delivery into the cell. That's the big difference that we have over anyone else. And we have the outside in, spraying the skin, spraying the hands, spraying the face. And when I saw the before and afters, it was shocking to me, and it's shocking to almost anyone. So that's one of the things we consistently do and we recommend. And if you're here for the first time and you want to talk with the person that invited you to this call, talk to them right away and get the spray and the swish and take your before picture, because you want to take your after pictures like 30 days later, 60 days later, 90 days later. And Sherry can attest to the fact, and we can attest to it in seeing her, that it keeps getting better and better and better over the years. because the nano allows it to penetrate all the layers of the dermis down to where the connective fibers are, the elastin and fibrin and those kind of things, where you can actually support the foundational cellular structure of the skin. Nothing else does that. This is a revolutionary product. So that's what we have. And Stephen Scott could have taken this his typical route, and he was very good at this. He set the standard for infomercials and partnering with celebrities, and you almost name the famous celebrity over the past 30 years, and Steve's partnered with them. And he owned Total Gym, and Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley were his partners. But he partnered with Cher on hair care, and Kathy Lee Gifford and Meredith Baxter Burney on skin care, and Richard Simmons on weight loss, and Michael Landon and Charlton Heston, and you name them. Stephen partnered with him as spokespeople on breakthrough products. He could have gone that route. And whose pockets would that line? Well, besides Stephen Scott's, it would have lined the pockets of the television networks, of the celebrities, people like this. Stephen figured people have enough money in those venues. Let's give people an opportunity. And that's absolutely brilliant. So we have the opportunity to get involved with something that for the last 50 years, I've been waiting for and looking for and hoping for, thinking, when will science actually have this breakthrough? And thank goodness that Stephen Scott came along with the technology, but it wasn't just him. It wasn't him in the lab. He had the connections. Because of his notoriety in the breakthrough world, he knew doctors, scientists, and researchers all around the world, cutting edge people in these venues. In fact, he was purchasing patents from various universities on glutathione because he was hot on its tail after Dr. Robert Keller told him and explained to him, if we could get glutathione into the cells, you would change health and wellness, you would change medicine, you would change the trajectory of humanity. Stephen took it to heart. And so starting about 2006, he embarked on this mission. And about 5 years ago or so was when they completed it and they had the finished product. That's when the testing began. But when they launched Neumi with this inside out and outside in product, we're coming up on 3 years on July 7th. So July 7th of this year, it'll be 3 years. But you know what? This company is still relatively small from where it's going to be a few years from now. A few years down the line, you'll be really happy that you made the decision today, very wisely, to get involved, change your own. You may not be interested in a business at all, but if you change your own well-being, I highly recommend getting some blood tests, and include maybe some liver panels and some other things like that, so that you can get a real accurate baseline, but definitely before pictures. And then you'll go back in for your blood test again, like 6 months later, 9 months later, and see where you're at. You're going to want to share it with people. It's hard not to, because it gets into your heart what's happening, and Stephen Scott's mission gets into your heart. And when that happens, try not to share it. It's almost impossible. So that's just what happens. And so you may share it with a neighbor and just not even think about it much, but you're helping your neighbor out. But your neighbor gets a great result and shares it with somebody across town, and shares it with someone in a different city, who shares it in someone in a different state. All of a sudden you have somebody that's referred to you from Australia or Singapore or Spain or somewhere, and you've affected that person's life. That's the beauty of word of mouth marketing. That's why Stephen Scott chose this. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. And we're here to help you support that and get back to the person that invited you to this call, because this is a game changer, and it's time to find out more about it. And the person who told you about this call can do just that. And we're here to help you, and we're here every day. And remember, if you are interested in a business, take this 90-day focus really seriously. And I believe, and I've proved it, you'll change your life. So thank you everyone for being here. And God bless you all, and we'll see you again tomorrow.